Well, back in the day, for those of you that remember, way back in the late 80s, early 90s, when the Gracie challenges were all the rage. This was at a time when the UFC was in its infancy, and Royce Gracie, the skinny kid from Rio in his pajamas, was tapping out monsters left, right, and center. It's often said that the rules of a sport are what makes it incompatible with a street fight, and the way you fight in the streets means you can't do it in the sport setting. But is this always the case? Let's take a look at a very clear case study that illustrates both points pretty clearly in this reality check.
Coja, Fabricio.
Tranquilo, calma, relax, relax. Respira.
Quiebra. Parte el brazo. Parte. ¡Ríndete!
Straight away here, we hit that deck. And what we now see is one of the greatest lessons we can learn from a self-defense perspective. If you are already in a pretty bad position and you are not controlling it, don't make things worse for yourself. If you don't have position and you don't have control, the one thing you probably shouldn't do to the guy that does have position and does have control is try and gouge his eyes. Watch the shift in the body language from the grappler to the karateka. The karateka's got there, he's on the wall, he's got that fairly standard hook the head and try and see what we can do to get out of this situation defense. And those fingers come around and they go right for the eyeballs. And you watch the anger that's actually apparent in that guy's body. As soon as that goes for his eyes, it's now fight on. This is now not a style versus style match anymore. You have escalated. You have raised the stakes and raised the ante, and now you're going to pay the price for it. In relatively short order, mounts him, gives him a few slaps around, and that arm is still coming up to that face. Big mistake, as we all know. He takes that arm, puts it into an arm bar, and he cranks it. And when I say crank, I don't mean he puts that arm bar on tight. He goes to break the arm. This is another illustration of a great myth that's often pervaded around about grappling in a street combat situation. There is no tapping out and there is no refs on the street. You're absolutely right, there isn't. There is, however, an arm that's now broken in about 4 places. Good luck carrying on whatever confrontation you got planned with that. Not only does he break the arm, he then chooses to punish, and he continues to talk and twist and go at that arm and really, really do some serious long-term damage. Let's look at how his thought process is with this. This is a style versus style match, ostensibly a sporting style contest until the guy decides it's not. When you go for a dirty tactic like the eyes, when you go for a groin, when you go for a bite, when you indulge in any of these tactics and you're already in an inferior position and losing, you have now raised the bar on what we are doing in this fight. One of my old instructors, Paul Vunak, used to say, you don't want somebody in the middle of a fight to go, oh, we're biting? You want them to go, we're biting? Like that. You need to overload them. You need to cause fear in them if you're going to use these tactics. And above all, you need to be in a position where you can actually employ them in the first place. In an encounter between two styles, gouging eyes is pretty low down the list of things you should be doing for many, many reasons. On the one hand, you can permanently blind someone. Is that worth it in a style versus style encounter? Definitely not. Let's not forget this isn't self-defense. The lessons we're extracting from this definitely apply, but this is a match fight. It's an ego fight. It's two guys trying to see who's the best. When you then choose to make this more than that, there's a very real danger that the person will then reply back with more force, which is exactly what we found here. Bas Rutten once summed it up succinctly. Don't f with the guy with dominant position. If you're already losing, sometimes you might want to take that loss. Now, does this mean we just give up if we're losing in the middle of a street fight? Hell no, you keep going. And if the only thing you've got is to go for the eyes, maybe go for the eyes. But you have to weigh the consequences of that action and that escalation against the realities of what's going on. If someone's slapping you and punching you and insulting you and calling your mother every name under the sun, you might want to take that on the chin, take the bruises and walk away rather than try and go for the eyeballs and now have that person one-up you. Combat tends to be asymmetric. One side goes at the other until they win, and they will keep escalating and escalating until that victory is secured. As often as not, this can just go one step further than the other person is willing to go. That's where heart, that's where will, determination, and to an extent experience comes into it. But in this instance, we have a guy using the so-called anti-grappling dirty tactics, the eye gouge, the bite, the groin grab, all these magical mystery tricks which are solving grappling problems for centuries. All of a sudden we find out they really don't. I'm not saying you can carry on grappling if someone's bitten you, or if someone's gouged your eyes, or if you grab someone's groin. What I'm saying is if you're going to do that to someone, make sure you can control them first. Otherwise, you've now got the tiger by the tail. And although the myth says you need to hold on, we all can see it's very hard to do so. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for staying to the end of the video. So many people click off because they've seen the violence porn and they think that's all it's about. As someone that's actually committed to becoming a better person and to maybe taking action and improving themselves, I would like to offer you a very special discount. If you go on the link below to our Reality Check training series page and you enter the code RealityCheck20, you'll receive a 20% discount off the training materials that we're offering. This course is unlike anything that's on the market already. I've put over 30 years of martial arts experience, over 20 years of law enforcement experience, and the basis for the reality checks into this course. I'm confident it will make a difference in how you approach life and certainly in how you approach self-defense situations. So by clicking that link and entering the code REALITY